Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a game that was designed by Matthias Cramer. We're going to be talking about Lancaster, and in this game you'll be placing your knights out onto a map of England. You'll be trying to gain the favour of various nobles. You'll be getting rewards that will give you victory points that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules, telling you what we do like, what we don't like. Then we'll come back with say whether or not Lancaster is still worth playing 11 years after it was first released in 2011. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit. See you after this. Bollocks. So, Lancaster, how'd you play this game? So Lancaster is a worker placement game for 2 to 5 players. You're going to stick the board out in the centre of the table, and depending on how many players you're playing with, you'll stick a certain amount of nobles in the county spots on the board. Each player is going to get a castle board. They'll get to choose one castle extension. This might give you extra squires in the rewards phase. It might give you some extra money. It might allow you to upgrade one of your knights by trading in squires. You'll also get a few knights. You'll get a couple of level 1 knights, and you'll get a level 2 knight. There's also other knights that are available. You've got a level 3 and level 4 knights, and the higher the level of the knight, the more of a hard nut they are. So each player gets a bit of gold. They get a couple of squires and a voting cube, and you'll stick this behind your nice little castle player screen, right? There's also a parliament board where some laws may be voted on, and I don't think I've forgotten anything, but who cares anyway. Then you'll start the game, right? So there's 3 different phases to this game. There's the place knights phase, there's a parliament phase, and then there is the rewards phase, right? In the place knights phase, you will look at your player board and you'll choose a knight to place on the board. There's various places to put the knight. You could put it on the county's board, and this will allow you to take the action associated with that county, or take the noble associated with that action. Or if you want to part with some of your hard-earned wonga, you can give up 3 gold coins to do both. One thing you've got to be mindful of when you're putting your knights out onto the board is that you have to place your knight that has a value equal to the value of the county. But the thing is, your opponents can come in and knock you off that spot if they play a higher number knight. You can also play squires to augment the power of your knight. So if somebody plays a level 3 knight on a level 3 space, you can come in with a level 3 knight and a couple of squires, but squires cannot be used to bump up the initial value of that knight, right? So when you resolve the space, the player will have the option of either taking the reward or getting the nobleman, or if you pay 3 gold, you can get both. You'll be able to put your knight on your castle board. This will allow you to take an action as if you had built that extension, right? Or you can contribute a knight to the conflict. There's always at least 2 conflicts going on. You'll stick your knight in the relevant spot, and then you'll take one of the king's favour rewards, because the king loves giving out a bit of favour, you know what I mean? Once everyone has finished sticking their knights out on the board, then you'll move into the parliament phase. This is the phase that proves without a shadow of a doubt that parliamentary democracy is a complete scam. You'll look at the parliamentary board and you'll see that there are 3 laws that are currently in force, and there's 3 laws that you can vote on. What you'll do, you'll take your yay and nay markers under the table with your voting cubes, and then you'll pull out a yay if you want the new law to become enacted, or you'll pull out a nay if you want the old law to stay in force, right? You can add votes by using voting cubes, and everyone will reveal, and then the majority wins. If there's a tie, then the new law will replace the old law. So some of these laws can be really, really game breaking. They can make or break your game, right? So you've got to be careful about how many voting cubes you commit to each vote, but at the same time you've got to be mindful that you're going to lose all your voting cubes at the end of this round, right? So you might pass a law that says players recruit 1 squire from the general supply for each of their own deployed knights with a 2 strength. You might enact the law that says players who currently have deployed all 3 knights with a strength 1 gain 5 victory points. Or you might enact the legislation that allows players who currently have deployed knights of all 4 strength levels to gain 6 victory points, which is huge. So this is an integral part of the game. It does add a huge layer of player interaction. Once you have decided which laws are going to stay and which laws are going to go, you'll move on to the rewards phase. The first thing you're going to do with the rewards phases, you'll see that each of the counties is labelled A down to I. You'll go in alphabetical order. There's all sorts of rewards available. You might take the reward that allows you to take a new knight with a strength of 1. You might want to receive gold and squires for the next round. You might want to choose a new extension that will allow you to upgrade your castle. You might want to take the option that allows you to upgrade one of your knights anywhere on the board, and this includes the knights on the battles, which is invaluable. So once you've finished evaluating the counties, then you'll look at your castle, you look at all the knights that are on your castles or any of the improvements that you've made, and you'll get that reward. Then you will resolve the conflicts. You'll look at each of the conflicts. You have to make sure that you collectively equal or beat the strength of the French. If that happens, then the player with the highest cumulative knight strength will get the first victory points, and then the next player will get the second. If you don't beat the French, you'll just get the second and third victory points, but you'll shift the tile down to the second battle, and the knights will be locked in there until the next round, right? So you keep doing this for 5 rounds. Once you have burnt through all of the parliamentary tiles and all of the conflict tiles, the game will be over, and you'll do a bit of final scoring. The player who has built the most castle extensions will get 8 points, and the second player will get 4. The player with the total value of knights will get 8 points, and the second player will get 4. And you'll look at your castle board, you'll see how many nobles dicks you have managed to suck, and you'll get that many victory points, all the way up to 36 if you manage to suck 15 dicks. So once you've done the final score, and the player who has sucked the most dicks, the player with the most victory points, will be the winner of Lancaster. So what do we like about Lancaster? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the Parliament phase of the game. Adds a much needed lump of player interaction that is more often than not missing from these types of Euro games. The fact that everyone has a say in the decision making, and you can collectively gang up on people, you can harass and cajole people into voting the way you want, or you could bluff if you want. You can make people think that you want that law enacted when in fact you don't want that at all. And there's a second element to this. You've got to be on board with not only the laws that are going to be enacted, but the laws that are going to be displaced. Sometimes it's in your interest to keep a law in place, right? So there's this sort of double-edged sword mechanism going on with the parliamentary aspect, and this is one of the most fun things about this game, yeah. So the second thing that we like about this game is the way that the game encourages you to level your knights up, because you're not going to be able to place any of these knights on the board, right? And I suppose when you're playing this in your mind, you're thinking, well, if I've got a level 3 and a level 4 knight, it's going to allow me to do a lot of stuff. Well, it might do, but you've got to remember that there's only one level 3 and one level 4 knight available. So in the later stages of the game, you're going to need the level 1 knights just to get into the spaces that a lot of other people would probably have forgotten about, right? We played this the other day, and at the end of the game, I was just placing loads of level 1 knights on these spots to get the nobleman, and I think the other players maybe thought that I was actually going to go for the actions. So there's this thing going on where you don't quite know which of the actions player is going to go for. Sometimes it's best just to hold back, just to see what the other players are doing first. That is sort of a tantalising thing, not knowing whether or not you're going to be able to pull off your plans, right? So the next thing that we really like about Lancaster is the way that the game can change radically once all of the placements have been made, because if you're going to be upgrading your knight, you're going to be able to affect stuff that has already been cemented in place, like the conflicts, for instance. You might think you've got the biggest balls that are swinging around on the coast of Normandy, when in fact you've got Buster Gonad behind you, levelling up his knights with a scrotum that could fit in a wheelbarrow. So the final thing that we like about this game, and this is the best thing about this game, is the absolutely fucking amazing first player token. This was without doubt the best first player token that we have ever seen. It is a huge chunky lump of wood that looks like a big fuck off lump of red Leicester cheese, right? And it's fitting that the player that takes control of the first player token can now call themselves the Big Cheese. So what don't we like about Lancaster? So the first thing that we don't like about this game is that this game is susceptible to kingmakers getting their fingers in the pies, right? Played this on a couple of occasions where you get into the latter stages of the game and there's going to be people out there that know they can't win the game because they're looking at the amount of noblemen that you got and they're thinking there's just no way I'm going to be doing it. So they're going to use the parliamentary phase of the game to vote all your shit down, or they might just block spaces where you want to go or screw with your conflicts, yeah. It's a minor gripe, but there is ample room for people who who aren't actually chasing victory to piss all over your campfire. So the second thing that we don't like about this game is that it just looks fucking awful, doesn't it? It's orange. I hate orange, and the theme is drier than a nun's minge. The knights just look like wooden cubes. Might have been better if they'd given you a few miniatures. I know it's like a Euro game by Queen Games, but even so, I mean, just a few wooden blocks, it's not that great, is it? And it just looks drab. It's not a game that you can convince people is as good as it is, because they're going to look at it and think, I'd rather play one of these new cocaine-fueled miniature games that has been spawned by a Kickstarter demon, right? So, yeah, maybe it could do with a reprint with a boost to the theming or something like that. But as it stands, Lancaster looks like a turd spread on toast. So the final thing that we don't like about Lancaster is that some of the rules are very, very unclear. There's numerous occasions when we drag this out, so we don't play this all the time, but there's numerous occasions when we drag this out that we forget about some of the nuances of the rules, and the rule book has a problem with specifying exactly what certain things mean. So, for instance, we weren't really sure whether or not you could upgrade your knights that are already involved in a conflict. We didn't really know what a deployed knight meant. We had to go on the internet and check to see whether or not we were correct, and even then it was as cloudy as Wilkinson's 10-day wine. Yeah, so yeah, the rule book could do with a refresh. I mean, Queen's Games aren't really renowned for the clarity of their rule books, so we'll just put that down to Queen Games being a cabal that want your money. So to summarise, is Lancaster still worth your time and bother 11 years after it was first released? So we're going to say yes, this is a truly excellent Euro game that includes some really tense and exciting player interaction that doesn't include just blocking other players' spaces, right? It looks like complete and utter dog shit, and as such it suffers from a real bad case of shelf appeal, right? But Lancaster is a truly fantastic example of how Euro games don't have to be solitaire multiplayer games, right? Matthias Cramer has infused this game with a healthy dose of player interaction, and that is rare and also to be applauded, right? So yeah, Lancaster is truly a special Euro game. If you like that sort of thing, it's not going to change your mind. If you don't like Euro games, if you're into like the Ameritrash stuff, then you will want to sidestep this pavement pizza. But every time I drag this out, I always have a blast. So there you go, that's Lancaster. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See ya next time.